This is Radio Cayman in the Cayman Islands.
For the Record is brought to you by Vamped Motors, the only authorized Ford and Toyota dealership serving the Cayman Islands. Coca-Cola, available across the Cayman Islands from Tortuga distributors. Accept no substitutes. Taste the feeling with Coca-Cola. Brand Source Home Gallery, inspiring luxury. MedLab in Smith Road Plaza, your complete medical laboratory solution. Call 949-7331. West Bay Pharmacy, taking care of your health. And RF Group, money at work.
This is For the Record with Ort Connor.
Coming to you live from Radio Cayman Studio.
For the Record.
For the Record. For the Record.
Hear from your government officials, independents, and the opposition on issues that matter to you.
For the Record.
Engage in an open dialogue between residents and lawmakers.
For the Record.
For the Record. For the Record.
Informative, impartial, insightful.
This is your talk show.
1-800-534-8255. Your calls, your input. This is For the Record. And now, your host, Ort Connor.
Good morning, good morning, good morning, O land of soft, fresh breezes and verdant trees so fair. Today is September 27th, 2021, Monday, here in the beautiful Cayman Islands. I hope and I trust that everyone had a restful, peaceful, enjoyable weekend. Those of you who are on the roads of the Cayman Islands, again, we urge you to please be extremely cautious. Ensure that you observe the rules of the road. Remember, the life you save may be your own. For those of you who are celebrating a birthday today, we want to wish you a happy birthday. Or if you have celebrated one over the past few days, like Miss Marva, she celebrated her birthday yesterday. We want to wish her a happy, belated happy birthday as well. And we hope that she enjoyed it as well. For those of you who have lost loved ones, again, we want to extend our sincere condolences to you. We hope and we trust that your faith will help to carry you through these extremely challenging times, and that the memories of your loved ones will be a blessing as well. And special condolences go out to the family of the young customs officer who lost his life in a motorcycle accident as well. For those of you who are not feeling well today, and if you're either at home or at a government facility, or if you're simply in quarantine because of travel or for other reasons as well, we wish you a speedy exit. And for those of you who are ill, we wish you a speedy recovery as well. So, folks, I want to thank you for allowing Radio Cayman, and by extension For the Record, into your homes, into your vehicles as you traverse the busy roads of the Cayman Islands, into your places of work, wherever that may be. As you know, For the Record is a show produced by the staff and management of Radio Cayman, and it is geared towards keeping you abreast of issues as they arise and play out in the local, regional, and international scene. I am your host, Ort Connor, and you're welcome to join me every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday from 7:30 a.m. until 10 a.m. During that period, our phone lines are open. Beautiful radio voice of Miss Susan Watson waiting to take your calls. You can call us on our toll-free number provided courtesy of Flow. That toll-free number, 1-800-534-8255. You can also call us on 949-8037 and 949-6990. Email us at For the Record, one word, For the Record at candw.ky. WhatsApp us 925-3261, where you can send us a text message or leave us a voice note, the contents of which will be played during the course of the show. And of course, follow us on YouTube simply by subscribing to Radio Cayman live stream. As far as your calls this morning, we're going to ask you to hold off on those calls. But if you have any comments or questions, please email them to us, For the Record, at candw.ky, or WhatsApp us 925-3261. We will be discussing the draft amendments to the immigration and other legislation, immigration law and other legislation requiring work permit holders to be vaccinated. That discussion will take place with the chief officer in the Ministry of Border Control and Labor, and also in the studio with us this morning, Dr. John Lee, the Chief Medical Officer. Gentlemen, good morning. Welcome back to For the Record.
Thank you, O.C. Good morning.
Good morning, O.C. Thank you for having us.
Okay, Mr. Howell, I'm going to throw the mic right over to you to introduce the topic.
So this morning we're here to have what is actually our first public consultation bit in relation to the amendments to the Immigration Transition Bill and the Customs and Border Control Bill. The two bills that were gazetted last week are seeking to gain the support of the Parliament in passing legislation that would amend those two pieces of legislation mandating vaccinations, COVID vaccinations for persons under what I would generally call immigration controls.
Mm-hmm.
So now that we have immigration functions dealt with by border control, there are some there that are dealt with by that piece of legislation, which includes persons such as students on visas, student visas, and those who are not gainfully employed, and then the persons who are covered under the work department's remit, which are work permit holders, and also other persons covered by the immigration controls, which are PR holders as well as dependents. So those are the areas in which we are here to talk about today and to walk through what the provisions of the bill entail, encompassing there.
Okay, Dr. Lee, some comments from you?
Not really, O.C. I mean, I think I'm happy to answer any questions. I think the reason there are facilities under the public health law to require vaccination should Cabinet decide that should be done. But clearly that doesn't affect people at the border controls, and we recognise that it was a broader system legally that was required in order to introduce these, and that's why other laws needed to be invoked separate to the public health laws.
Okay, and one of the questions we know that people have been asking, why has it taken so long? And in the meantime, there are feelings that the gate was left open, and if we close it now, how much do we actually achieve?
Seeing as we haven't resumed regular flights as yet, we haven't fired up our tourism industry to stay over tourists. We think that there's still an opportunity to get the regulations and the legislation in place before there's mass movements of people. And any time is better than later in that relation. But it is complex legislation, and as we've seen from around the world and around the region, vaccine mandates have been under significant legal pressure, so we want to make sure that we did our best to get it as right as we could out of the gate. So it was a lot of deep review and consultation around it, which is essentially one of the reasons why an initial thought that it would only apply to one section of persons on immigration control, be it those persons on work permit, to be proportionate and fair. It was then extended to all persons covered by those immigration controls. So hence the PR holders and those persons who are governed by the Customs and Border Control Act. So it does take time for that to work its way through the legal and legal drafting process.
Okay. Now, do you want to discuss some of the salient points in the amendments?
Yeah, so I can start with the Customs and Border Control Bill.
Yes.
That particular bill mandates that individuals arriving on island under certain aspects of the Customs Border Control Bill have to be vaccinated or present an undertaking that they will be vaccinated within 40 days in relation to COVID-19. The sections covered by that are cabinet permit, non-Caymanian child of a Caymanian, dependent of a Caymanian, and persons on student visa. So those are all aspects that are dealt with under the Customs and Border Control legislation. Quick reminder that visitors are currently required to be vaccinated, and those are done through the public health regulations, the control of COVID regulations, and that remains in place. So on the transitioning over to the immigration transition bill, that bill covers a range of PR products, so 8-year PR, RERC, dependents of PR holders, surviving spouse of a Caymanian PR holder, independent means, certificate of investment, spouse independence of PR holders, substantial business presence. So there's a slew of PR products in addition to the work permit and the work permit dependents that would also be vaccine required as well throughout legislation. The legislation also applies to dependents who are vaccine eligible with the approved vaccine course as well.
Okay. Now, for clarity, can you explain how it affects, or if it affects, persons who are currently here on work permits, whether or not it will be when their work permits come up for renewal, or whether or not they're not affected at all by
it? So as drafted, the vaccination requirements will kick in for any applications that are received post the bill, the law, the act at that point coming into effect. So any renewals, any new applications that come in after that date would be subject to the vaccine mandate. So that also then takes into consideration grants. The only bit that doesn't apply would be those persons who are already under multi-year work permit, where
they simply have to pay the fee.
They're only paying the annual fee, but any product that comes up, any license that comes up for renewal or new application would be subject to the new provisions.
Okay. Dr. Lee, I'm going to ask you a question there. So obviously there are going to be some gaps in there where not everyone will be captured in this legislation. Mr. Howell did mention the fact that those persons who have multiple year work permits, so they may have had a work permit issued for 3 years, they're just in year one of that work permit, they would not be covered. And of course, Mr. Howell, you have the ability to determine exactly how many persons fall into that category. Would that present a problem in terms of our exposure, a possible exposure?
I think what the Cabinet is seeking to, as far as a public health doctor is concerned, they just want as many people to be vaccinated as possible. That's all I have to say. Okay. How Cabinet and the people that design legislation choose to implement that is always a sensitive matter. And Chief Officer Howell has explained how a lot of consultation has had to go ahead even before the public consultation has opened, and that's been very extensive. And a lot of advice has been taken. So I think that clearly the intent of this is try to pull in as many people as possible who have chosen to be in Cayman rather than have a right to be here, to say we wish to continue as safely as possible with our plans as we proceed to reopening, and we know that means the highest possible vaccination rates. That will bring increased safety, and that's what this is seeking to do, bearing in mind local sensitivities, because each country is going to be slightly different in that regard, and every country's legislation is slightly different. I'm sorry it's a vague question, but the first bit is the most important. I want as many people to be vaccinated as possible.
And I think that's the key point for people to understand, that it is not in any way intended to be a punitive measure, but more to encourage people to be vaccinated for their own health and safety as well as those around them.
Yeah, very much in this particular instance, it's for the public good as well. That's why these sorts of things are being for the public health, in the broader sense of the term, because we understand that all smaller countries have limited resources. They are finite, they're easily to count. If there's an outbreak of COVID in a city in the UK or the US, they can pull in resources from around to assist with that outbreak and lock things down. Mm-hmm. We don't have that opportunity here. We want to make sure that at no time are our hospitals overwhelmed, that they can cope, and also that we don't cause people to be at risk that don't deserve to be at risk, those who are vulnerable, those who are elderly, those who are much more likely to suffer.
Okay, we're going to take a commercial break, but I want to give Mr. Howell some food for thought. And we know that any piece of legislation that is being considered, that, one of the guardrails that are in place, one of those that is in place, has to do with whether or not the legislation in any way breaches the Constitution. So you have to check to ensure that it is in line with our Constitution before you even should present it to our Parliament. I'd like you to discuss that when we return. Folks, please stay tuned. The conversation with Dr. John Lee and Mr. Wesley Howell will continue after this short commercial break.
The Cayman Islands boasts of a long, colorful, and rich history. In tribute to our roots, Radio Cayman, the voice of the Cayman Islands, is pleased to bring you the Historical Vignette Series, brought to you by Rotary Central. For more than 110 years, Rotary members have used their passion, energy, and intelligence to take action on sustainable projects. The Cayman Islands, He hath founded it upon the seas.
Captain Charles Ebanks Glidden, 1890-1958. Pastor Charles Ebanks Glidden was a minister of the gospel, pastor of the Church of God Full Gospel Hall in West Bay, a sea captain, a magistrate, and a merchant. He and his wife, Etlyn Nee Hines, were caretakers on Swan Island for some years. They had 6 children, one of whom died shortly after birth. A resident of Georgetown, who found himself in trouble with the law, tells his story. On the day of his trial, he went before the court, Charles E. Glidden presiding. The evidence was presented and the defendant was found guilty as charged. The penalty was a fine or time in prison. The defendant was unable to pay the fine, so the presiding officer, Mr. Glidden, took him outside the courtroom and gave him the amount of money required, and he paid the fine and was released.
Radio Cayman's Historical Vignettes was brought to you by Rotary Central. For more than 110 years, Rotary members have used their passion, energy, and intelligence to take action on sustainable projects.
We are island people. We know that hurricane season means preparation now ahead of time, being ready ahead of the fury of nature we cannot control. Preparation that can make the difference between life and death, injury and safety, the misery of loss, the regret of procrastination. Know this now. Hurricane safety begins with you. It's your responsibility and mine. Your medicine, your valuable documents, your water, your place of safety during the storm. Your preparation now will directly determine your outcome during and after the storm. Prepare now. A message from Rotary Central. We serve to change lives.
We think it's time you crossed over to a new vehicle. And with the 2021 Toyota Corolla Cross now at Vamt Motors, you have plenty of reasons to make the switch. The crossover body and hybrid engine is a sleek design in a sturdy structure with a spacious interior that opens to extensive cargo space. Stuck in traffic? The high-performance self-charging hybrid system automatically switches between gas and electric vehicle mode, helping you lower both fuel costs and carbon emissions. The Corolla Cross has full LED lighting inside and out, an integrated display audio system with energy monitor, and a dual-zone climate control system to ensure comfort for all. Test drive the new 2021 Toyota Corolla Cross Hybrid today at Vamt Motors, Walkers Road.
Are you feeling sick, but don't feel ill enough to go to the doctor? Ask your pharmacist for advice. Here at West Bay Pharmacy, our pharmacists have been trained to offer helpful, easy-to-understand advice on the treatment of everyday minor ailments for yourself and all the family. Anything from headaches, cough and sore throat, to cold sores, our pharmacists will know when medical help is needed and will not hesitate to refer you to your doctor if your symptoms demand it. Like doctors, our pharmacists have a professional code, which means all personal information you give them will be treated in the strictest confidence. Visit us today at West Bay Pharmacy, where we care about your health.
For medical lab services in Cayman, go straight to MedLab.
For a full range of medical services, pleasant, clean and comfortable environment, no long lines and affordable fees, visit MedLab at the Smith Road Plaza. Open Monday to Friday, 8:30 a.m. to 5 p.m. and half day on Saturdays. Call 949-7331 to make your appointment.
For medical lab services in Cayman, MedLab.
Ask our professional team about the benefits of cutting-edge technology with MedLab's new state-of-the-art digital mammogram machine.
What's that? No sugar, same amazing taste? Coca-Cola Zero Sugar is here to stay. Classic taste, pure satisfaction. Be sure to stop into any Tortuga location and get your own case of Coke Zero. Or grab an ice-cold one straight from the cooler. Brought to you by Tortuga Distributors Limited. Coca-Cola, taste the feeling, Cayman.
Make your house into a home. Welcome to Brand Source Home Gallery, your source for premium products and a premium experience. We'll design and install your dream kitchen with crafted cabinets, complemented with elegant appliances. We'll fill it with quality houseware and cookware. Custom-designed closet and storage solutions organize and beautify any area. And with the finest bedding, you'll get a perfect night's sleep knowing Brand Source Home Gallery has everything you need to make your house a home.
System 1 loaded.
1-800-534-8255. What is on your mind when it comes to the government, independence, and the opposition? Issues that matter to you. 1-800-534-8255. Waiting to hear from you. For the Record.
This is For the Record with Ort Connor.
Good morning and welcome back to For the Record. It is my pleasure to have in the studio with me this morning Chief Medical Officer Dr. John Lee and Chief Officer in the Ministry of Border Control and Labor, Mr. Wesley Howell. We're discussing the draft amendments to the various immigration and border control legislation as to require persons in certain categories to be vaccinated. And the question that was posed before we went to the break, Mr. Howell, I have that for you, and then I'll read another one at the same time. This person has written in and said, since the law that will come into force will force certain categories to get a vaccination, will everyone now have a choice of vaccinations versus just the mRNA technology ones? So
that's really for me, I think.
Yes, Dr.
So
Lee.
you'll probably be aware that we had the availability of the AstraZeneca vaccine. I would hazard a guess maybe 4 months ago. I think it was March time. We had to throw it away because there wasn't any demand. So a few people took it. Don't misunderstand. A few people took it, but the bulk of the 100 doses that we received expired before we could use them. We're planning to get. I've heard a number of people say that they would like some choice. So we're planning to get some more AstraZeneca vaccine, and the UK have said they're happy to provide us with it. you'll know that the AstraZeneca technology, the viral vector technology, is the same that's used in the Janssen vaccine as well. So the two of them are the same technology. So we'll get that soon. I can't give you an exact date when. We're trying to ascertain how much demand, because what we certainly don't want to do is to get it and for it to expire again. That would be embarrassing.
So would you be seeking through any format to determine those persons who would be willing to?
I mean, I've got a few people who by name have declared themselves as wishing to seek an alternative, and they have mentioned the viral vector. And also the communications department at the government is going to help to just try and get a survey to see if they can see what the uptake might be. And of course, we'll try and make a much bigger splash when it's here to say, come and get it. Because that could have also been a problem before. And I think, everybody's desire has changed over time. So it could be there's better uptake this time, and I hope so.
Okay. So, Mr. Howell, the constitutionality of these amendments.
So you did ask that. Thank you. And you did ask a question a little while ago about why it took so long to get legislation to where it is. And that indeed is one of those very serious considerations that we had to make was how does it fit in with the Constitution. So to be clear, the Customs and Border Control legislation and immigration transition legislation are discriminatory by nature because they apply to a certain subset of persons, i.e. those persons on immigration control. And it does have limitations on how long they can stay, who can come, who can be deported. All those things are, very heavy constitutional issues. So we wanted to ensure that the Constitution bits were also included in our deliberations. And one important aspect of that was the proportionality aspect of it and the non-discriminatory aspect. And that's actually one of the reasons why the initial scope from work permit holders only was expanded to cover all of the other persons that are covered by immigration controls, because that was seen as fair and proportionate across the board based on how the legislation is. So all of those categories of individuals have very similar medical requirements. So pre these bills, persons here now on work permit would have submitted themselves to medicals, tests, in some cases vaccination requirements for other types of vaccines. So what we've done in relation to the drafting is actually mirrored those medical provisions across the board for all persons on immigration controls. So yes, and answer in short, yes, very heavy intent was paid to the constitutionality of what's being proposed. And a bit of an extension from that is it does not also depart from what's already contained in the Public Health Act, which is some very far-reaching legislation, and with this as sort of sister legislation in these particular bits, we've done a belt and braces approach to the vaccine mandate.
Okay, not sure if we'll have enough time for this question, but one person wanted to know why not just include it on the medical form that is required of a work permit holder or a permanent person applying for permanent residence or other applications. Why not just simply include it in that form?
If we have time for it. Again, having the hindsight of seeing similar provisions in other countries and jurisdictions, and the chances of that policy decision, which it would be at that point, right, being challenged, we thought it best that we would concrete that in legislation and have it properly thought out, debated in the Parliament, aired for public consultation, such as we're doing now, before implementation. So it is sort of the best option for taking it forward by having it in primary legislation.
Okay, thank you very much for that. Folks, top of the hour, we're going to be going to our 8 o'clock news, but here's some food for thought for you as well. Does the current immigration law deem a person who's suffering from a communicable disease a prohibited immigrant to the Cayman Islands? And the additional question to that, is COVID-19 a communicable disease as well. And Dr. Lee will chime in on those questions and provide an answer for us when we return from our 8 o'clock news. So don't change that dial. Lots more to talk about. Please stay tuned. For the record, we'll be back immediately after the 8 o'clock news.
Thank you, Mr. Connor. And studio time now by Foster's is 7:59.
Looking for better buys and better selection? You'll find it all at Foster's.
Our new specials catalog is full of better buys, just like Lipton Iced Tea. Save $4.40 on a 12-pack, now only $9.59.
You'll also find better selection in the new catalog, like Good Pop Popsicles, 4-pack, just $4.99, save $1.
And with over 70 products on special in the catalog, it's easy to save big in-store at Foster's and online with Foster's Go.
Foster's, better prices because we care.
Price is good until October 6, 2021. Find more specials at fosters.ky.
89.9 FM in Grand Cayman and 93.9 FM in Caymanbrack and Little Cayman.
Shining in the sunlight.
Radio Cayman.
The 8 a.m. news is proudly sponsored by the Chamber of Commerce Pension Plan. For further information, please visit chamberpension.ky. The Cayman Islands Chamber of Commerce Pension Plan. We are here for you. Please be advised that the pension contribution holiday has been extended until 31st of December 2021. Employers and plan members should ensure arrangements are in place for salary deductions and remittance following this date. The Cayman Islands Chamber of Commerce Pension Plan, keeping you informed. For further information, visit chamberpension.ky. And for information as it happens, follow us on Facebook, LinkedIn, or Instagram. Email admin@pensions.ky or call 745-7630. We're here for you.
For today's biggest news.
Radio Cayman, the voice of the Cayman Islands.
With your latest news, I'm Karsley Fuller. Tributes poured in over the weekend after a car crash claimed the life of Justice Ebanks. Radio Cayman's April Cummings reports.
An avid footballer, Ebanks was killed when the motorcycle he was driving was hit by a minivan on Reverend Blackman Road in West Bay around 6 p.m. Friday night. The Royal Cayman Islands Police Service says he was immediately transported to the hospital by ambulance, but succumbed to his injuries and was pronounced dead by the attending doctor. Ebanks was an officer with Customs and Border Control, which closed its cargo distribution office on Saturday following the sudden and tragic loss of one of its officers. In a Facebook post, the Cayman Islands Football Association said it was deeply saddened by the tragic death of past national team player Justice Ebanks, adding, quote, "What a sad loss for the football family." Academy Sports Club says his death has, quote, "shaken the entire football community." The Elite SC family has also sent condolences to his family and friends, writing of the young man that he had a funny and joyful personality, was well-mannered, humble, and caring, and a great footballer, adding, quote, "We will miss you dearly." April Cummings, Radio Cayman News.
A man is recovering after being shot in West Bay early Sunday morning. The Royal Cayman Islands Police Service says around 3 a.m., officers were sent to a report of gunshots being fired off Bankers Road. In the attack, one man took a bullet to the leg. Police say a second man was also injured but didn't specify. Both were taken to the hospital by ambulance where they received treatment. The gunshot victim remains in the hospital. The second man was discharged. The incident is being investigated by police, and detectives are encouraging anyone with information to call the Major Incident Room on 649-2930. And Cabinet has clarified some social distancing regulations. The updated Control and Management of COVID-19 Amendment Regulations 2021 specify that restaurants and bars may offer indoor and outdoor services subject to the owner or operator satisfying several conditions. This includes tables being at least 6 feet apart, notwithstanding social distancing requirements laid out elsewhere in the regulations. People from different households can be seated at the same table in the restaurant or bar. Servers and front house staff must wear masks or face coverings while serving customers, and owners and operators of any establishment found in breach of these regulations are liable on conviction of a $10,000 fine or up to 2 years in jail. The amendment regulations are in force. Now with a check of international news, here's the BBC, which will take us out of the newscast. I'm Karsley Fuller from Radio Cayman's Newsroom.
BBC News with Jerry Smith. The centre-left Social Democrats in Germany have claimed they have a clear mandate to govern after preliminary results from Sunday's election put the party narrowly ahead of the long-dominant Conservative alliance. The SPD leader, Olaf Scholz, says he plans to build a coalition with the parties that came third and fourth, the Greens and the Free Democrats. Millions living in China's northeast have been coping with days of unannounced power cuts, as power shortages across the country have left the authorities scrambling to ensure uninterrupted supplies to critical buildings like hospitals and factories. Some officials say a nationwide coal shortage has led to the power disruption. Thousands of Indian farmers have blocked major highways as part of a nationwide strike against 3 laws, which they say threaten their livelihoods. Life in different parts of the country, including the capital Delhi and states like Punjab, Haryana, Kerala and Bihar, have been affected. 14 low-ranking members of the Palestinian security forces have gone on trial over the death of a prominent local activist, Nizar Banat. The charges against the men were read out in court and all pleaded not guilty. The trial was then adjourned until next week. The authorities on the Spanish island of La Palma have ordered residents of 4 coastal communities to stay at home as lava from an erupting volcano approaches the sea. The lava from the Cumbre Vieja volcano is well over 1,000 degrees Celsius and is likely to cause explosions if it reaches the Atlantic Ocean. South Korea's President Moon Jae-in has entered the debate about the traditional practice of consuming dog meat. Mr. Moon, who's a dog lover, questioned whether the time has come for cuisine. It's estimated 1 million dogs are slaughtered for the kitchen annually. BBC News.
The 8 a.m. News is proudly sponsored by the Chamber of Commerce Pension Plan. For further information, please visit chamberpension.ky. The Cayman Islands Chamber of Commerce Pension Plan. We're here for you. Are you aware of the performance of your pension plan? The Cayman Islands Chamber of Commerce Pension Plan provides quarterly fund fact sheets for our members to stay informed with the plan's performance. For the year ended 30th of April, 2021, the various life cycle funds have provided returns between 10.5% and 43.2%. And our all-in expense ratio for year ended 30th of June, 2020 is currently the lowest it's ever been. 0.72%. Visit chamberpension.ky to review our fund fact sheets. You can see the performance as far back as 10 years. Remember that pensions are a longer-term investment strategy. Focus on the long-term rather than the short-term returns. The Cayman Islands Chamber of Commerce Pension Plan continues to perform for you.
Stay in touch with Radio Cayman for the latest in news and information.
Follow Radio Cayman on social media, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter. Download the Radio Cayman app or log on to our website, www.radiocayman.gov.ky.
Radio Cayman, your voice, your choice, your radio.
With Logic, you get more things you do want, like faster fiber internet, more TV, entertainment, and better customer service. And you get less of the things you don't want, like waiting, boredom, and disappointment. More of the good, less of the bad. It just makes sense. Or should I say, it's logical. See what I did there? Call us or go to logic.ky to find out how you could be getting way more of what's good.
As the community continues to take precautions from COVID-19, it is important to stay prepared for other disasters now that we're in the hurricane season. Here are some post-hurricane safety tips from the Department of Environmental Health. Always separate debris from household garbage after a hurricane. Debris includes roofing materials, tree branches, and metals. All items of debris must be placed in separate piles and must not cause obstruction to roadways or come in contact with electrical lines. For full guidance on post-hurricane safety tips, visit www.deh.gov.ky.
The 8:10 a.m. Weather Report, Monday through Friday, is proudly sponsored by Pan American International Insurance Corporation. Pan American International Insurance Corporation, meeting the life, accident, and health insurance needs of individuals and businesses to ensure financial security and peace of mind. For more information, call 949-8304 or visit www.palig.com. That's PALIG.com.
For over 100 years, more than 5.8 million people across the Americas and the Caribbean have placed their trust in Pan American Life Insurance Group. We have delivered on our promise and have proven that we are more than an insurance company. We are family. To learn more about our first-in-class individual and group life, disability and accident solutions, please visit Pan American International Insurance Corporation at Unit 221, Cannon Place East, North Sound Road, Grand Cayman, or contact us at 949-8304 and visit us online at www.palig.com. Pan American Life, people you can trust for life.
Good morning. Let's take a look at the latest weather report. Current temperature is 82 degrees. Relative humidity is 84%. The barometric pressure is 29.98 inches and rising. Winds are calm. Overnight low temperature was 78 degrees. Synopsis indicate light northeasterly winds and smooth seas will continue across the northwest Caribbean for the next few days due to a weak pressure gradient. Radar images show showers in and around the Cayman area drifting towards the west. The National Hurricane Center in Miami, Florida is issuing advisories on Hurricane Sam. For further details, you can visit www.nhc.noaa.gov. This system poses no threat to the Cayman Islands. Now, the forecast for today calling for partly cloudy skies with a 30% chance of afternoon showers, and temperatures will be in the upper 80s. Winds will be northeast at 5 to 10 knots, and seas will be smooth with wave heights of less than 2 feet. Pretty much the same for tonight, partly cloudy skies with a 30% chance of showers and temperatures falling to the mid-70s tonight. Winds will be northeast at 5 to 10 knots and seas will be smooth with wave heights of less than 2 feet. We're presently at a low tide and the next high tide will be this afternoon at 3:47 and a low tide again tonight at 8 minutes past 11. The sun will set this evening at 6:15 and will rise tomorrow morning at 6:16. And the outlook is calling for similar weather conditions through Thursday morning.
The 8:10 a.m. Weather Report, Monday through Friday, is proudly sponsored by Pan American International Insurance Corporation. Pan American International Insurance Corporation, meeting the life, accident, and health insurance needs of individuals and businesses to ensure financial security and peace of mind. For more information, call 949-8304 or visit www.palig.com. That's PALIG.com.
For over 100 years, more than 5.8 million people across the Americas and the Caribbean have placed their trust in Pan American Life Insurance Group. We have delivered on our promise and have proven that we're more than just an insurance company, we're family. To learn more about our first-in-class group health and employee benefit solutions, please visit Pan American Life Insurance Company of the Cayman Islands at Unit 221, Cannon Place East, North Sound Road, Grand Cayman, or contact us at 949-8304. You can also visit us online at www.palig.com. Pan American Life, people you can trust for life.
During these unprecedented times, Radio Cayman, the voice of the Cayman Islands, is pleased to bring you the Cayman Strong Series. The Cayman Strong Series is brought to you by Encourse Cayman. Visit encourse.ky to view a full list of wellness services and their qualified team. Encourse Cayman, health, wellness, and happiness.
Achieving your goals is a very rewarding feeling, but at times can feel very frustrating, especially if and when we miss our target. As you approach your goals in life, set yourself up for success.
When setting your goals, celebrate your progress. It's important to acknowledge progress each step of the way as you achieve your goals. Everything that you do to move in that direction gets you a little closer. Planning small rewards along the way can help to keep things interesting and give us a taste of what sweet success will be like.
Change your thinking and change your life.
Radio Cayman's Cayman Strong series was brought to you by OnCourse Cayman. Visit oncourse.ky to view a full list of wellness services and their qualified team. OnCourse Cayman, health, wellness, and happiness.
These days, feelings of loneliness, anxiety, stress, and depression can be overwhelming. Just know you are not alone. OnCourse Cayman offers private mental health services for children, teens, adults, and groups. Visit oncourse.ky to view a full list of wellness services and their qualified team. OnCourse Cayman, health, wellness, and happiness.
The traffic report is brought to you by Subway. Planning a meeting, event, or office celebration? Visit subway.ky to place your catering order today.
Good morning, everyone. Let's take a look at traffic. Busy traffic on the Linford Pearson Highway. Delays expected as you head on out of Georgetown. Busy traffic coming off of the Linford Pearson Highway on Agnes Way as well. And steady traffic on Crew Road. And traffic also steady on the Butterfield roundabout heading towards the Industrial Park area. And traffic steady coming off the Esterly Tibbetts Highway heading to the Butterfield roundabout. As we look to Godfrey Nixon Way and Eastern Avenue, traffic flowing at a good pace. On Shedden Road as well, traffic is flowing nicely. And coming from the West Bay 4-way stop, moderate flow of traffic. And on Crew Road, steady traffic in some sections, other sections moderate. That's the very latest on your traffic. Join us again at about 10 minutes after 12 o'clock. We'll give you another traffic report. Remember, click it or ticket.
Bro, do you really have to eat 2 sandwiches for lunch?
No, but one is for dinner. On Tuesdays at Subway, you can get the 2 subs for any size, plus a fountain drink for the price of 1.
Nah, Bobo, that sounds too good to be true. For real though, 2 subs for the price of 1? And a drink?
Each and every Tuesday now until September 28th. Buy any Subway sandwich in any size and a 32-ounce fountain drink and get an equal or lesser value sub for free. For every 2 for Tuesday purchase, be entered to win one of 3 LG 50-inch 4K smart TVs, a Grill Pro, or one of 2 retro bikes, plus many more prizes. Subway's 2 for Tuesdays is in partnership with Pepsi and Progressive Distributors. Prize drawing is September 30th. Terms and conditions apply. See in store for details. The traffic report is brought to you by Subway. Planning a meeting, event, or office celebration? Visit subway.ky to place your catering order today.
For the Health of It is heard on Wednesdays at 7 p.m. and repeated on Saturdays at 9:30 a.m. It is brought to you by Holy Cross Health. Quality medical care and advanced technology with sincere compassion and understanding. Our mission is you. Call 1-954-351-5906. Email global services at holy-cross.com or visit Holy Cross Health at holy-cross.com.
Substance use disorders affect millions of people. You are not alone. Substance abuse and addiction can challenge individuals, families, and communities. This September, celebrate National Recovery Month. Recovery is for everyone, every person, every family, every community. Call the Department of Counseling Services, Caribbean Haven Residential Center at 947-9992 for information on treatment.
You can now renew your driver's license or motor vehicle license online. And you don't need an ESID number. It's as easy as 1, 2, 3. Visit www.dvdl.gov.ky.
For the record, with Ort Connor.
Initiating system.
For information that matters. For the record, with Orit Connor. Continues right now on Radio Cayman.
Good morning and welcome back to For the Record. It is my pleasure to have in the studio with me this morning Chief Medical Officer Dr. John Lee and Chief Officer Mr. Wesley Howell. We're talking about the proposed amendments. They're actually draft amendments to the immigration law as well as legislation relating to border control. Before we went to our 8 o'clock news, I teased you with the proposition that there may be sections in our immigration law, current immigration law, that deals with persons who are deemed to be prohibited immigrants by virtue of suffering from a communicable disease, and whether or not persons with COVID-19 would fall into that category. So that's partially a medical issue as well as a immigration law issue. So we'll start with you, Dr. John Lee.
Thanks, Wesley. So there are a lot of diseases which are notifiable, and SARS-CoV-2 was added to that list quite a long time ago. So it is a notifiable communicable disease. That means that under the public health law, and as we're hearing other laws too, there are implications related to that. One of these is that any member of a household, a head of the household, is required to report any person suffering or thought to be suffering within their house, as there is a duty on medical practitioners to report these to the medical officer of health, so they can be recorded and tracked accordingly in public health. As far as immigration is concerned, there has generally been a gradual shift in this country and in many other countries, such that if somebody has a disease that it is very well under control and does not pose a threat to anybody else whilst it's under control, that person should be allowed to pass freely as part of essentially their human rights. So, for example, I'll give you the example of HIV. If the various counts of the disease are negligible and you're well treated, it's not thought that you pose a risk to anybody, no matter virtually what you do. So quite a lot of countries now allow people with that sort of, despite the fact it being a communicable disease that people are concerned about, free passage. And so for COVID equally, we can imagine you don't want people who are coughing and spluttering, potentially spreading something, to be crossing borders and moving about, whether it's COVID or tuberculosis or any other respiratory disease that's easily passed in the passage of travel. So you can understand that being the case in the immigration law.
Okay. Mr. Howell?
Yeah, absolutely. So that provision is actually in the Customs and Border Control Act, and it's sort of two places where that would kick into effect, and I think the key word is suffering from. So the legislation governs who can enter and also governs who can remain. The remain bit is an extreme bit, and the processes that the director of CBC and his team go through does take into consideration some of the natural justice aspects as well. So if there's a intent to deport, there would be the processes that would have been going through with that, and we would work very closely with the medical officer of health in relation to those aspects. But I can't recall in recent past anyone being deported because of a communicable disease, but it is also a requirement for entry in relation to being free of those diseases, more generally so.
Okay. This person said that they just joined listening to the show, and they wanted to know whether or not the same will apply to contracted government employees and their dependents as well. What's in this legislation?
Okay, so that's actually a two-parter. I'll expand a bit on the listener's question. First off, the government companies and statutory authorities are subject to the work permit aspect. So their non-Caymanian employees who are subject to immigration control would then be subject to these requirements. In relation to government contracted, so this is core civil service individuals, they are actually exempted from work permit requirements because their government contract takes the place for that, and then they're governed by the Public Service Management Act. Mm-hmm. So the Deputy Governor has gone on record that he is in the progress of progressing changes to the Act and the regulations to mirror these provisions within the civil service in relation to civil service contracts for non-Caymanians. So they would mirror what's being proposed for persons who are required for work permit requirements to have these provisions.
Okay. Now, we know that all aspects of this legislation, the draft legislation, they're all important. Are there any particular segments or sections that you would like to highlight for our listeners?
So two things. Noting that some of our source markets for labor, that be Honduras, Jamaica, Philippines, vaccines aren't readily available. So one of the provisions in there is the undertaking to be vaccinated within the 4 weeks of arrival on island. So ideally, individuals will get their first vaccine dose while in quarantine for the 14 days, and then would then be able to get their second dose a week later. If that undertaking is not complied with, then that individual's subject to work permit could then be revoked, and the person would have to depart the islands. So that's a sort of segue to allow individuals who aren't who don't have easy access to vaccine in their home countries to be vaccinated here. The other bit is that there is an exemption that's built in form of a medical certificate for persons who are unable to take the vaccine due to serious medical concerns. But I would hasten to add that these pieces of legislation also require the individuals that are applying under them to be in generally good health all round. Mm-hmm. So it would have to be a very careful exercise that whatever matters that would cause somebody to not be able to take the vaccine would also allow them to qualify under the clean bill of health required for passing the rest of the medical for those aspects of services.
Okay, and someone else wanted to know what will be the level of scrutiny in terms of if a person says or when they submit a report. We know, for travel purposes, what is it called again? The
securely verified.
Yes. How will that be done?
No less than we are already doing for the border. So where we can verify that by electronic means.
QR code?
QR code is one of the ways where we can tie that to an individual that we know and can prove that's who it is. But then our officers are also trained to recognize forged documents, and the penalties are the same as they are under the public health legislation in regards to this. So there's $10,000 and 2 years imprisonment. So there is no joking matter for submitting false documents to individuals in relation to the requirements for vaccination certificates.
Okay, this question here is a little bit off, but it has to do with vaccines. And a person wanted to know when do the 14-day quarantine period for someone who is considered locally primary contact at the date of last contact or when testing is first conducted, when the 14-day period begin?
So I think that's isolation, not quarantine, but
yeah.
So that sounds like somebody's been asked to isolate by public health.
Yes, yeah. Being a primary contact.
Okay,
yeah.
So it's, Dr. Lee, I think that's yours.
Well, to be honest, it starts when the medical officer of health or his or her designate asks you to isolate, and it ends when they release you. That in general is 14 days, but we obviously test people before they're discharged if they're a primary contact. So that may be slightly longer than 14 days. However, under the public health law and its regulations, you need to follow the directions of the medical officer of health in this regard.
Mm-hmm.
There is no excuse.
So it definitely won't be less than 14 days?
Not currently, no. I think as we move forward and reopen the borders, as our vaccination rates are very high, but as we have more COVID in the community, our tolerance for the occasional people being positive but having very little harm to their health, mild symptoms or no symptoms at all, our tolerance for that will increase. And certainly with that, we may well be changing the sorts of things you're discussing, OC, or we're discussing, OC, and bring those dates down. Because we have very little community COVID currently, that is why we provide the most stringent requirements around that, and are different from other countries like the USA, like the UK, which have COVID widespread in the community.
Okay, well, while we're on that topic, and I know that you do not want to steal any thunder from ministers or anything like that, but if you can you update our listeners and the public in relation to the previous outbreaks that we had, where we're at, with that as far as testing and reassurances to the public is concerned?
Yeah, so we will be releasing the collated results from the weekend later this morning. This week, and I don't have it in front of me, I apologize, we should be testing, and the people who are being tested today should know that today we are testing the people involved in an incident at the flu clinic where they may have been exposed to one of the children who was subsequently found to have SARS-CoV-2. Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Tomorrow there is a drive-through at the Lions Center for people who were isolating as a result of the Georgetown Primary School incident, and I would encourage everybody that was involved to attend the drive-through and be checked. You may actually have to get out of your car. I think it's going to be a drive-through, so don't, if you have to get out of your car, forgive me. But it will be at the Lions Center. And then on Wednesday, the people who are primary contacts, and they know who they are, the people who are primary contacts will be called forward by Public Health to be tested. The Ministry of Education and the Department of Public Health will be releasing a rota for the Tuesday event. So it'll be by years to this year come at this time, this year come at this time, in order to have smooth passage of people through that.
Okay, thank you very much for that. Folks, we're going to take a commercial break. When we return, the conversation with Dr. John Lee and Mr. Wesley Howell will continue. I want to urge you to continue to send those questions and comments in to us as well. And hopefully in a few minutes we will open up the phone lines for you to call in, but we want you to concentrate on the legislation itself. Mr. Howell will provide you also with information in terms of how do you access the draft legislation, when this will be brought to our Parliament as well. Please stay tuned for the record. We'll be back shortly.
What's that? No sugar, same amazing taste? Coca-Cola Zero Sugar is here to stay. Classic taste, pure satisfaction. Be sure to stop into any Tortuga location and get your own case of Coke Zero. Or grab an ice-cold one straight from the cooler. Brought to you by Tortuga Distributors Limited. Coca-Cola, taste the feeling, K-Man.
Since March 2004, West Bay Pharmacy has kept their doors open to the local communities, even before, during, and after Hurricane Ivan. At West Bay Pharmacy, our staff provides so much more than pharmaceutical excellence. From the moment you walk through our doors to completing your cash out, our staff will have put your healthcare concerns at ease. We would like to take this moment to thank our loyal friends and customers. To us at West Bay Pharmacy, our patients are our primary concern. We provide thorough background checks and precise calculations to ensure your medical safety. Thank you for being a part of our family and for choosing West Bay Pharmacy, where we care about your health.
Had a look at those investment options yet? Too busy. Look at today. Workout, breakfast, take the kids to school, back-to-back meetings, take Pepper to the vet, and she's apparently got allergies now, so And that was all before 12. But you look relaxed.
That's because my money's as busy as you.
With RF, you can access the best in local and international investments to keep your money busy, so you can spend more time focusing on you. Contact us at rfgroup.com to find out more. RF, money at work.
Radio Cayman News.
A collision on Fridays leads to one fatality.
Academy Sports Club says his death has, quote, shaken the entire football community.
In the attack, one man took a bullet to the leg, and police say a second man was...
We do need to be able to live and move forward with COVID in the community.
Radio Cayman. Your voice, your choice for today's biggest news.
System 1 loaded.
1-800-534-8255. What is on your mind when it comes to the government, independence, and the opposition? Issues that matter to you. 1-800-534-8255. Waiting to hear from you. For the Record.
This is For the Record with Ort Connor.
Good morning and welcome back to For the Record. In the studio with me, Dr. John Lee and Chief Officer Mr. Wesley Howell. We're discussing the upcoming amendments to border control and work permit requirements in the Cayman Islands as far as the COVID-19 vaccine is concerned. Dr. Lee, I think there are a couple of points that you wanted to bring across as well.
Yes, I think one of the important ones was really around the medical exemptions for vaccination, because I know there are a small number of people who are obviously very concerned about it, and because either they've had a vaccination of some sort in the past and have had a severe adverse reaction, or they may have had the first dose of this vaccine and have had an adverse reaction. As I have said in press conferences before, we have had a handful of serious events which we believe are related to the vaccination with the Pfizer vaccine in Cayman. What I am very pleased to say is all of those people have either got an awful lot better or fully better or are still in recovery. So I am pleased about that. With any vaccination or any medication that you give, especially if you give it on a widespread, but virtually trying to reach the whole of the population, you will get people who have adverse reactions. Having said all that, so if somebody feels that they, for a medical reason, really should not have the vaccine and they have a registered medical practitioner in the Cayman Islands who agrees with them, then that person should provide that documentation to the medical officer of health for final approval. That's the mechanism we think will exist. Obviously, we'll have to wait and see what actually comes out in the legislation, what's actually approved. But that's what I'm imagining would happen.
Okay, Mr. Howell?
Yeah, as currently drafted, there is a provision for local practitioners to submit those medical certificates for individuals already on island and also for persons applying from overseas. But as Dr. Lee shared, those are subject to the final approval of the medical officer of health.
Okay. As far as the legislation is concerned, I saw where one of the law firms, HSM, released something last week, but it had more to do with employers in the private sector as opposed to employers in government, as far as the vaccine mandate is concerned. And they really didn't touch on government policy and what the implications were for those for government mandates. And so they totally didn't address the whole constitutional issue and what our Constitution says in that regard, and is unfortunate. And maybe they'll come up with something, with that at the end of the day. But as far as any legislation is concerned, and we know persons have been vocal, some have been writing about it, about the whole idea of government requiring vaccines for work permit holders and others as we see now, undoubtedly there may be challenges in that regard. And of course, any legal challenge will present the opportunity for everyone then to know exactly what the legal position is on it. It may take a long time for that to happen because, we may go through the stages of a grand court here, Court of Appeals, Privy Council, as well. So it may take a long time if that were to occur. But it appears as if the trends that we're seeing and the various advices that are being given, that it is something that can be done because it's a public health issue, and that has been outlined before. Now this one is a little bit complicated, and I'll read it before I read it out loud, just to make sure I share it with you. Meanwhile, I'll throw the mic back over to you. Dr. Lee, you want to say?
Well, I had a question for Chief Officer Howell, because I know it's going to come up, and I know the interviewee shouldn't be the question. So the question is in two parts. Does the immigration law mention the age of vaccination, and what will happen when vaccinations are approved, for example, for 5 to 12-year-olds, and how might they be affected?
So it does mention that the vaccine has to be given a certain period before entry into the islands, but it doesn't go as far back as whether or not it's not specific as to whether or not someone would require a booster vaccine in order to qualify. But this is only primary legislation, so there's some details that can be worked out in the secondary legislation and the regulations. The legislation does speak to vaccine eligible, so it does follow the approved medical course, which is now 12 and over for the vaccines. So there's no new ground in relation to the vaccine requirements. This is essentially mirroring the requirements that exist on the public health regulations, and actually doesn't go into the same detail as the public health primer, because this is primary legislation changed via the Parliament, and the regulations changed via Cabinet are much more agile and then can be adjusted to more developments, more recent developments and the like. Was that both of your two parts?
Yeah, I think yes. But also for the public, because I know they're all asking about the vaccinations for the younger children,
yes,
between 5 and 12 or whatever. We know that Pfizer has announced that they've completed the study. But just the same as before with the boosters, and we will still need to wait for a stringent regulatory authority such as the MHRA or the FDA to approve it before we consider it. And certainly in the case of the vaccines that we've received from the UK as part of its support of the UK Overseas Territory, we will need to wait for the MHRA to approve the use of vaccines in that age group, in spite of the fact that there is some study information, because they will review all of the information, any additional information they have, to make their determination.
Okay. Another question here. It says, can the doctor speak to the efficacy of the vaccine and what we now know about how much the protection falls off over the months?
I think the issue of protection falling off is not as clear-cut as you might think, because it probably varies depending on your age and your medical status, amongst other things. Also, a lot of people are equating a fall-off in antibody levels to a fall-off in vaccine protection, and that also might not be the case. Yes, we have some real-life examples from Israel where it appears to fall off, especially in older groups after around between 3 and 6 months. I think we're going to still need a lot more scientific evidence to be dogmatic about the amount of protection that is or isn't provided, because there remains good protection against serious illness and death, even for a long duration of time. I know that's not an absolute answer. I don't feel it's yet available.
Okay. We have a question in relation to whether or not, after this legislation is passed by Parliament, or if it's passed by Parliament, obviously the government has the numbers there that it can be passed. Is it going to be fast-tracked? Are there any expectations that the governor may not assent to the legislation? And if that were the case, whether or not there are backup plans in relation to that. If you could answer that when we return, folks. We're going to take our last commercial break. Please stay tuned. The conversation with Dr. John Lee and Chief Officer Mr. Wesley Howell will continue after this short commercial break.
For medical lab services in Cayman, go straight to MedLab. Blood test, x-ray and mammogram, all of that is MedLab. Affordable fees and friendly service, a full professional team. MedLab is always comfortable, MedLab is always clean. For medical lab services in Cayman, MedLab.
Call 949-7331 and ask about MedLab's new state-of-the-art digital mammogram machine.
Make your house into a home. Welcome to Brand Source Home Gallery, your source for premium products and a premium experience. We'll design and install your dream kitchen with crafted cabinets, complemented with elegant appliances. We'll fill it with quality houseware and cookware. Custom-designed closet and storage solutions organize and beautify any area. And with the finest bedding, you'll get a perfect night's sleep knowing Brand Source Home Gallery has everything you need to make your house a home.
We think it's time you crossed over to a new vehicle. And with the 2021 Toyota Corolla Cross now at Vamt Motors, you have plenty of reasons to make the switch. The crossover body and hybrid engine is a sleek design in a sturdy structure with a spacious interior that opens to extensive cargo space. Stuck in traffic? The high-performance self-charging hybrid system automatically switches between gas and electric vehicle mode, helping you lower both fuel costs and carbon emissions. The Corolla Cross has full LED lighting inside and out, an integrated display audio system with energy monitor, and a dual-zone climate control system to ensure comfort for all. Test drive the new 2021 Toyota Corolla Cross Hybrid today at Vamt Motors, Walkers Road.
Healthcare Pharmacy, caring about your health for the past 25 years. Radio Cayman's premier health show.
Alzheimer's and dementia, are they the same disorder?
Yeah, I think that's a very important question.
For the Health of It with Tara Bush.
For the Health of It with Tara Bush.
Is heard on Saturdays at 9:30 a.m. and on Wednesdays at 7 p.m. Brought to you by Healthcare Pharmacy in Grand Harbor, where they care about your health. Transfer and refill your prescription online. Visit healthcarepharmacy.ky or call 947-8900. Healthcare Pharmacy now with a new and second location in Governor's Square. The new Healthcare Pharmacy in Governor's Square is open Monday to Friday, 9 a.m. to 6 p.m. and Saturday, 9 a.m. to 2 p.m. Healthcare Pharmacy, where they care about your health.
For the record, with Ort Connor.
Initiating system.
For information that matter. For the record, with Ort Connor. Continues right now on Radio Cayman.
Good morning. Welcome back to For the Record. We're on the last leg of this segment of the show with Dr. John Lee and Chief Officer Mr. Wesley Howell. I'm going to read one more email that we have as well. This one is directed more to Dr. Lee, but Mr. Howell, don't forget, I know you've already made note of the last question. This person says, is this proposed legislation already redundant? They go on to say that viral loads of the vaccinated are just as high as those of the unvaccinated, as the CDC has admitted. This means that a vaccinated infected person can spread the virus just as quickly as an unvaccinated. At best, this proposed legislation simply causes more division and fear in our community, and at worst is totally immoral. Rather than follow this flawed approach, has Cayman Islands government looked into early intervention protocols such as those being implemented in Florida and in various states in India that look to have very positive results? If the common goal is to keep our community healthy and to reopen our borders soonest, surely we would implement all possible remedies, which includes alternatives to the jab, which more members of the community may support. Dr. Lee?
Well, quite a complex question there.
It is,
I think the most important thing to remember, and this has been demonstrated in every country where have there been significant outbreaks of the Delta variant, it's the Delta variant we're facing at the moment, is that the vaccine prevents serious illness and death. So although some viral counts in the nasal passages, in the upper airways, may be the same if you have been vaccinated or not vaccinated, the outcomes of contracting the illness are still vastly different. We've seen quite striking evidence where people who are unvaccinated are the ones who are filling the intensive care units and the ones who are dying, vastly overwhelming those who have been doubly vaccinated with a good vaccine. So I think that shows the degree of protection, and that's absolutely the intent of the government and of public health, to prevent people getting seriously ill and dying, and to prevent our hospitals being overwhelmed, because if they are overwhelmed, people with heart attacks and cancer and pulmonary emboli cannot get into the hospital for treatment either. I absolutely agree that early intervention and multiple methods of managing COVID are what we seek to do, which is why the Cabinet introduced last week and the week before that multiple measures designed to slow the spread of COVID-19, and that the language has become that of management rather than suppression.
Yes.
So the non-pharmacological interventions are significant. Each one of these are additive. So masks, distancing, hand hygiene, added to the vaccination, and general public health awareness are really important. Keeping your exercise outside, keeping as much as you can do when you meet other people outside, are all very important interventions which will slow the spread of this disease. At the same time, it is great that there are lots of treatments coming around the world for this, and these are all additive to help control this disease and hopefully push it into the long grass within the next 2 to 3 years. I just thought it might be nice to share that a very interesting thing that I read recently was that there are antivirals specifically targeting SARS-CoV-2 that are in final trials for use. These are foil-wrapped oral tablets that you would take if you were exposed, something like the morning after pill. If you're exposed to something, you take this tablet, I don't know how many you'll have to take, and then you would be protected against the virus with very good early results showing good reductions in viral loads. So it's a multifaceted approach rather than a one-size-fits-all, and I believe that vaccination is absolutely the cornerstone and the key of the public health policy required to control this pandemic.
Okay, this one, I guess it's worth repeating, Mr. Howell. Obviously, the writer didn't hear it. And, of course, I encourage you to go to YouTube, and you can replay this whole interview, this whole show this morning as well. But the individual wanted to know, will persons brought into Cayman to work with government or for government, but do not have to get work permits, also be subject of same vaccine requirements? So in your closing comments, wind up, you can cover that as well for me, please.
So happy to cover that. As to your question you posed prior to the break, as most folks would know who watch the media conferences, the press conferences, the governor is very much in support of vaccinations. If you think back to earlier this year, I think he was among the first half dozen persons that received the vaccine in the Cayman Islands. And I can't speak for his office, but I'm fairly confident that the bill as proposed, considering how well we have done our homework in relation to the constitutionality of it, would see little problem in passing once it passes the Parliament and that debate. Speaking of the Parliament, the bill is currently scheduled to be debated next Monday, the 5th of October. The Premier has certified a shortened public consultation period, which ends on Sunday. I think we're back on again midday on Wednesday with Sterling Dwayne's show. In addition to that, we have an email address that we've set up for folks to send any policy-type questions about the bill to us. It's bclpolicy@gov.ky. And as with any bills that go to the LA, individuals can also find their members of parliament, because that is their purview to feed their views into their members of parliament, so that those views can then form part of the very public debate that happens at the parliament as well. So those are the bits. To go back over what the two bills cover. These bills cover persons who are under immigration control in relation to requiring work permits, or persons who are here under the Customs and Border Control Act. As drafted, as written, these two pieces of legislation do not apply to non-Caymanian government workers, because they are essentially exempted from the work permit requirements because they're covered by the Public Service Management Act and the regulations, and their contracts form that bit. But the Deputy Governor has gone on record as working on a similar provision within that piece of legislation to mirror these provisions for non-Caymanian contracted government civil servants as well.
Okay, we have about 4 minutes left, and Dr. Lee, in your winding up, if you could cover this observation and question. Person says last week they heard the Minister for Health in a press briefing refer to the COVID-19 virus as being an airborne virus. Is that factual? Is it really airborne? Why social distancing then?
Yes, there is no question it's a respiratory virus. By the nature of all respiratory viruses, they're airborne. The consequences of the virus once it gets into your body are not necessarily just respiratory. As we know, it affects your blood vessels throughout your body as a cause of a lot of the problems it gives. Social distancing or distancing is really because if you're further away from somebody, then there is less chance of any intermixing of the air that you're breathing. I'm not sure if I've fully understood the questions. That seems that would be seen to be the reason that would
distancing. Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yes. Okay. Final comments as well, and you can also tell our audience when you will be on your farewell tour and when you will be on for the record, for some exit comments.
Yeah. Well, OC, if you wanted to have me back for some observations about the Cayman Islands healthcare system before I left, I'd be delighted to do so.
I'd be happy to have you.
I would really appreciate having some time to gather those, because I've not yet had a moment to do anything about that. But hopefully I might be able to do that early in December for you. But I would still encourage people, please, to come and get vaccinated. And hopefully this week we'll also be announcing, well, clearly we're doing the testing around the Georgetown Primary School event, and then the booster program hopefully will be announced towards the end of the week. We are calling forward people by telephone individually at the moment who are clinically extremely vulnerable. And I hope this will be a further incentive for people to be vaccinated, and certainly it will be for anybody joining the islands, and that's a very important thing, because if you can imagine if people are joining the islands who are 100% vaccinated, then our vaccination rate will automatically go up every time they are joining.
And we just saw last week, I think it was an additional either 5 or 7 deaths that we had in Bermuda. Any words of wisdom for people of the Cayman Islands in terms of, how we can learn, unfortunately learning the hard way from what is occurring in Bermuda. We're so similar in many respects, even though we may have taken a different path as far as our borders were concerned.
Yeah, I mean, so I have a weekly meeting with UK Overseas Territories Chief Medical Officers, and I'm well aware, Bermuda has over 1,000 cases. The hospitals are creaking. I understand that part of the perceived problems are the fact that there are a number of loopholes in the biosecurity across their border, so a lot of people get exemptions to come through, and that's probably how the virus has been able to come so widespread. Mm-hmm. But just to reiterate, although they have, I think it was last Friday, 40 more than 40 inpatients, 12 in intensive care, and have had 4 deaths. The vast majority of those people in intensive care are unvaccinated. Of the 4 dead, I understand that 1 was vaccinated, but as you might expect, that was somebody who was immunocompromised, an extremely vulnerable person, which is exactly why we're saying the better public health precautions we have to minimize the spread. It's those sorts of deaths, the people who cannot help themselves because they're already in a fragile situation. We hope to prevent those.
Okay. Mr. Howell, any final comments? And just to remind people that the measures that are being put in place, they're not punitive. They're intended to protect.
Most definitely. And, juxtapose these mandatory requirements with individuals who are sending me text messages and emails and phone calls wanting to know how they can get their booster shots because they want to do all that they can do to feel comfortable with reopening, to have the maximum protection that they can have from the vaccines. So while there are some folks that vaccines are not their cup of tea, there are others who are chopping at the bits to get their booster shots in. And I think one of the important bits to recognize, just keeping an eye at the Bermuda numbers, is that we were trending about 8, 9, 10% above Bermuda in relation to vaccinations. And it's important that these bits of legislation come into place, particularly as we have quite a transient temporary work permit regime in place, that persons coming on our shores don't dilute our vaccination numbers, but actually go the other way and help to keep them where they are, if not boost them higher.
Okay, I want to thank both of you, gentlemen, for being here. Very, very important information that we have shared with our audience this morning. Folks, top of the hour headline news, 9 o'clock. When we return, we will have Ms. Paulinda Mendoza Williams and Minister Andre Ebanks in the studio with us. So don't change that dial. Lots more to talk about. It may not be about COVID, but it is something that's interesting to you as well. So please stay tuned. For the record, we'll be back shortly.
Today's biggest news.
Radio Cayman. Your voice, your choice.
Local, regional, international. This is Headlines from Radio Cayman's newsroom.
Today's biggest news.
Government reported the results of 404 COVID-19 tests on Friday. 1 came back positive, a traveler in isolation. So far, about 72% of Cayman's estimated population is fully vaccinated. As of Friday, 9 people had their booster shots. Germany's center-left Social Democrats have claimed victory in the